Channel here over at SubScribestar. If you're SCW, turn off the video and just click like see less of this type of channel. So why Hollywood remakes, remakes, and remakes? Another remake on the way from the War of the Roses that will either break even or bomb. So why are there so many remakes isn't really the issue, because if they were doing well, nobody would notice them, but obviously they're not. And in fact, all of Hollywood is in the horse latitudes. No country for Hollywood, man. Hollywood is not the cultural influence that it used to be, and that's a good thing, because obviously they're all lizard people when they're not at islands abusing kids. So how to address this and be politically correct enough to stay on YouTube another day? One of the things you see are the remakes, but also the reboot. At least Kevin Smith was able to make fun of it in his reboot. So the Rings of Power is kind of a I don't know what you call it, like an extrapolation on a theme, but totally lame. That's the bait and switch method, where they take something with name recognition before the super woke period and hope you go see it based on the name, like the Grease remake, which, I mean, a lot of these things I'm going to name you've probably never seen, because as it turns out, not many people have. Unfortunately for these globalist vermin, humans are not fungible, so you have an original cast that fits the roles. They belong together in a natural, organic way. Lord of the Rings worked because it was one tribe. Rings of Power bombed because it was mixed. People on average don't do that, and they're seeing it too often. Even in the latest zombie streaming show, what's it called? They've got, like, somebody pointed that out on Twitter, like all the couples are mixed or something. It's just like nobody is buying this kind of stuff. Or people are being, social media is good for certain things, bringing awareness to things. People don't do that on average. Diversity makes weak societies. People are seeing that today. So when we see it on screen, we know it's propaganda. Humans are sort of these spider web networks of DNA, the nature, and then there's the nurture, the external environment. And if you tell an original story, and eventually they're just going to keep remaking the remakes. If you tell an original story with all these puzzle pieces fitted together, it's the alpha and omega. 77 Star Wars is a good example. In fact, I know they kind of remade that or I guess, I don't know what to call it. It's like what the 2015 Star Wars was such an abomination. I guess that's a reboot, because it's a very similar plot. I look at Disney and I think, like, why didn't you guys just create your own plot? So friggin' bizarre. It was almost a remake. Like, they didn't quite have the courage to make a remake. And it's like, does it really count as 7, 8, and 9 of the stories if you borrowed so heavily from the original trilogy? It's freaking bizarre. But the 77 Star Wars trilogy, oh wait, no, I don't think they own the rights to that, so I guess they can't exactly remake it. I think Lucas has the rights to that, so up to him or his next of kin. So the thing is, with that movie, they felt like they belong. Oh God, what an abomination! What an abortion this will be. Hopefully it just goes to like an Amazon or a streaming show and nobody sees it. So the thing is, they felt like they belonged together, and times were different. And even Big Trouble in Little China, so it wasn't politically incorrect, but it's just God, it was so funky, and what a great movie that was. It was just a product of its time, and you can't do that now because everything sucks now. So the thing is, okay, they felt like they belonged together in the original 77 Star Wars, and times were different. And then when they included Lando, the thing is, he wasn't a Mary Sue. That's why he worked in the movies, and it's just not the same. He was multifaceted, and he tried to save Cloud City from Vader, but he was also trying to not sell out Han and his entourage. So he teamed up with the group and figured out a way to save Han. And plus, obviously, the actor chemistry went a long way. The more I think about Disney Star Wars, the more I just can't believe, like, how much cocaine do they have to sniff to think that they're coming up with good ideas. And the thing is, now everything is crap. It's all globalist propaganda from lizard people. If I was making movies, I'd go in the opposite direction of Hollywood. They're making everything diverse and, feminist propaganda. I would throw all that out and tell travel stories, to look at movies pre-1980s especially, or movies in general, and look at why they worked. Then I would factor in how much everyone hates the other tribes today and just get rid of all the diversity altogether and no girl power whatsoever. The Kim Cattrall in that Big Trouble in Little China. Oh, a beautiful woman running around dressed in a night robe or something. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're not going to do that these days. In fact, look at the Lord of the Rings movies. The people looked like they were in the kingdoms together. Go with that theme. I mean, you look at that and eventually they're going to remake. The Blob was great. The Blob in the 50s and then the remake in the 80s, both were good movies. I mean, they would remake those guys on horseback running around, and it would be, it would be. People would look at the screen like, what happened? What is everyone taking crazy pills? The only place you can use diversity is as the antagonists, because that's how people are. And I think in the original Lord of the Rings, they did that. Used Asian actors to play this outside tribe who was teamed up with Mordor, just because they had to have people who were visually different. People are tribal. Those are the stories that organically made sense. They've made sense for as long as people could tell stories. It's pretty simple. With movies or video games, people are done with diversity, and people are really done with ugly women. I saw the video game models where they 3D scan the model, and then you see what they end up with, and the faces are just fat and ugly, and they're making them androgynous because the whole trans thing is an issue now. So you end up with chicks that nobody wants to look at. Ultimately, you have the power in your pocketbook. You don't have to pay for any of this stuff. For the love of God, pick up a book. Anyway, get hot, skinny young women as your models or in your movies. You don't have to worry about making Blonde Man bad or a non-white a Mary Sue, because the whole movie should just be blonde men. Or, can make it all like that Wakanda movie, and that would make sense too. But even in the Wakanda movie, I think they made the bad guys the Englishmen, or actually from Lord of the Rings, I think. Or just make the POCs the bad guys if you have to have them in there. And it'll feel more natural to the audience, and it's a good, fresh way to make movies. See, that's why I told the SJWs not to watch, because I think they'd be offended by that. Obviously, I'm not taking crazy pills. I'm not taking any pills. They're not going to do this. Hollywood is not there. Hashtag pure blood is not there to make money. I'm so glad I stayed virginal in that regard. They're not there to make money so much as they're there to push globalist propaganda, because oh God, Chronicles of Narnia. Yeah, you absolutely destroy that. They're all literally bullshit vermin. A Cliffhanger, well, that was a crap movie to start with. Why would you remake a crap? Oh God, wait, didn't they remake Clue? This is 2 years old, so they might have I think they did a diverse remake of that. Or something very similar. It's just it just feel dirty watching it. The other big thing is, no, you can't just let people enjoy things. You have to get online and speak out against all this Larry Fink parasitical propaganda. So it was diverse even back then. They're making movies that act as inspirations for stochastic terrorism and anti-white attacks, though that's what the narrative is. Oddly enough, the Asians seem to be getting like the narrative from mainstream media and Hollywood is pushing all this anti-white racism, and then what happens? Oh, the Asians are getting attacked. It's like, how did that happen? Anyway, the thing is, you have to speak up, or else kids will continue to be brainwashed by anti-white Hollywood. Yeah, make a movie on witchcraft. It's like, oh God, don't even get me started on that. Though, I mean, it is fascinating. To start in 1963 with Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. Somebody wrote a fascinating article on that. I wish I could go find it. I know I have it bookmarked or downloaded or something. It's like trying to organize all this stuff. It's just about impossible. Anyway, the thing is, we're at, oh God, they're going to remake The Crow. Oh, it's just painful, stupid, the stuff they come up with. There was a peak period in Hollywood. But the thing is, we're at war, and Hollywood and Larry Fink are one facet of the propaganda branch of it. You might not think, you're actually kind of want to go through this and look at these things now. That was a kind of a mediocre movie, if I remember. You might not think you're brainwashed by a lifetime of Hollywood oh dear God, I just can't imagine how horrible. I think about it, like they're probably going to remake Indiana Jones all over again. They can't make number 2 because it's the thug cult, but number 1, yeah, they'll absolutely remake that with a younger actor. The thing is, I promise you, you are brainwashed by a lifetime of Hollywood propaganda. The reality is the Cosby Show. That's kind of they've done Dune. That's kind of the dream world. I mean, the Matrix is the Cosby Show. That's the dream world. Reality is different. It's as different as the left and right hand path. So, I mean, they had stuff like, good examples are Avatar, Witcher, Rings of Power. All had those 3 I saw. And the thing is, now it's like I think of all the movies I haven't seen where they do this kind of very similar concept. Where in the opening scene, they're in a bar or a pub, and a blonde man was being stupid and violent or arrogant or something. And in Rings of Power, he called the Afro elf pointy ears or something painfully stupid. That's supposed to be a analogy for something else. Obviously, it's like, just call him the N-word. I mean, gee, we get it. You want to continue to foment discord. The reality is that an Englishman invented that universe, the Lord of the Rings, that Amazon has destroyed. Amazon is like a cargo cult. So then in Witcher, the black girl had to beat up the evil blonde people in some kind of Tolkien-esque pub where she doesn't belong because she's not in that universe, which was invented by, I assume, a Polish man. Maybe Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan was equally bad, but I don't think anyone saw it. And I think I read some of I'm not into fantasy so much, but somebody was like begging me to read it. I don't know if that was diverse in the book or not. It might have been, but it's like kind of reading things in books. It just doesn't, some stuff just doesn't translate to the screen, where you look at the Wheel of Time screen and it's like, it's just all, who are these people? Where do they come from? Why are they all just so fat and ugly? Thing is, why was Games of Thrones such a hit and the diverse follow-up totally forgettable? Escape from New York, I suspect that'll be a documentary in a few years. Because they diversified all this crap to the extent where the Poxwalks are wearing blonde wigs. It's just so disabled that it hurts. Dear Hollywood, a universe with castles and dragons is based on European folklore. There are only going to be European people in it. If non-Euros wrote a story of that time period, it would, if you're talking about the putting blacks in the Euro story, it would be set in Africa. They didn't have a fantasy world based on castles and dragons and knights in armor and even bows and arrows, not until later. They just didn't have all those kind of things. That's not their history. That's not their culture. It's not their timeline. And it's weird how their cultural appropriation, which in itself is just another Frankfurt School concept, only goes one way, of course. But, I mean, there's also verisimilitude, the willing suspension of disbelief. A lot of this stuff is just, kids can watch it, and kids will buy it until they get a little bit older and they realize like they were being propagandized to or proselytized to. So when people see people in these stories that don't belong, once you hit a certain age and someone's kind of clues you into what's going on, they just call it woke and they don't watch it. Flash Gordon, it didn't Queen do the opening soundtrack of that? How the hell did you get involved with that? Because the movies aren't organic. They're diverse propaganda that only works on kids. Didn't they just do Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Maybe that was a low-budget streaming show. I think it was. With just like two ugly people in it. Flight of the Navigator, that was pretty good. Nobody watched it. It doesn't seem like these movies are designed to be watched. And the thing is, all these movies where it's a kid like this, obviously they're going to, what they're going to substitute in for these kids. So you have these two characters from different tribes that for Mr. and Mrs. Smith that have low audience draw potential. I'll say it. Fly High, that was classic with what's his face, Gutenberg or something. He did a great job on that. Generally a pretty scary movie. But the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, and somewhere in the 90s. It was a horrible movie to start with. I don't think it did well. It was a stupid movie, but at least they were really good looking people, photogenic people, where the remake is like, ugh. both bags, 3 bags for both of you and one for person entering the room. So nobody wants to see that demographic combined. Neither one of those Asians or blacks don't want to see that, and then the rest of the country doesn't want to see it as well. I'm really looking forward to when Rings of Power comes back next year. I mean, it's a big assumption that it'll still be on YouTube in a year. Probably not. They took a year off for the Wu Flu for some reason. Probably because they're pussies, I guess. Thing is, it's okay to poop on the things you don't like. And it's not like you're insulting people. Friday the 13th. Well, I should go back and watch that. What a classic that was. Because very few people are watching these things. But the woke crowd feels they must defend these stupid movies. Oh, The Fugitive. I'm sure it'll all be like fair, blonde fugitive with pox, walks, people chasing him like it was in the last Indiana Jones movie with the black FBI agent with her afro or something. I don't know, stupid movie. The thing is, they defend these movies because the wrong people don't like them. It becomes like a generational battle with the Disney Star Wars was part of it. Ghostbusters, yeah, they redid the Ghostbusters. They keep redoing the Ghostbusters. They're on like 2016. They did that, and then they did the 2 with Paul Rudd, and I think both of those movies bombed. I think. To be fair, they're coming out during the Wu Flu time period, so things are a little bit funky. I think they both lost money. I gotta admit, I haven't seen either one of them. I look at the movie, I look at the cast, I'm like, meh, it's just not. One way or the other, it's going to be woke. And then I heard the second one that came out. There's like the teenage girls and some kind of lesbian flirtatious thing. It's like, no thanks. The thing is, the obvious point is that the woke crowd aren't watching these movies either. So something like She-Hulk gets 1 season. Though I think they're trying to figure out a way to bring it back to give it another season because it did have a lot of buzz around it. But it wasn't good buzz, and it wasn't translating into people watching the show. It's like, all you have to do... Season 1, Episode 1. The first 5 minutes of She-Hulk, the women are having some talk, and some blonde man goes into the audience, and he's just kind of vaguely stupid or intrusive, or he's portrayed as a negative within, like, the first 5 minutes. And they showed you behind the scenes who was writing these things. And it's all pox, walks, just they look like they smelled horrible. And they go, okay, we'll put a blonde guy in here to take some of the heat. It's like, oh, no, we should change that. Make her a pox woman. And they throw it out the fucking window. There's no way you'd even get in that. I hope they do make a season 2 because it'll just continue to lose money. And Shang-Chi's getting a follow-up. I guess they kind of had to. It broke even, but barely. Not well enough to warrant a sequel to it, but everything else they've put out recently has bombed. Anyway, so you had, I don't know, Madam Web came out. I guess I could go back and watch that. It's, I sit down and think about watching these things like I just can't bring myself to do it. If I was watching with somebody else, see, that's one of the power of Odyssey is you can still watch movies on Odyssey. Maybe not you can't replay them, but you can watch them live and then pull the stream. And you can watch them with people, and you can pause the movie and talk about it. It makes bad movies really interesting when you're actually talking to people. That is the way to. I know there's like Plex servers for like private rooms and stuff like that. I gotta figure out how that works. Madam Web, Captain Marvel Part 2, Charlie's Angels, Terminator, the last one, The Eternal, Shang-Chi, Black Widow, Black Adam with The Rock, the last X-Men, which I guess was like 5 or 10 years ago. I don't even remember. I think I started to watch that and like, and probably a dozen more. And I never saw this Green Lantern either. Probably a dozen more of these movies also bombed. Not Gremlins. Oh, God. They bombed or they break even, but the left defends them because they're, hey, look, more race mixing. They're gay and they're diverse. And yeah, I don't want to see any of that. All that stuff is cancer. The big hits were... Barbie was a monster hit. No, it's called Wakanda, or what's that movie called? Black Panther or something? That was a big hit, including the sequel. Then the latest Spider-Man did well. It was a hit, but it wasn't a monster hit. And then the Batman did well, but I don't think the Spider-Man or the Batman were the monster hits that they could have been. I don't think they crossed $1 billion, which, nowadays for movies is kind of be expected, but those are both getting sequels. Holy shit, these movies aren't even that old. Gremlins, that 1 and 2 was, oh gosh. You just can't remake these movies. You think like that's not going to stop them. Here's the thing: this was 2 years ago when they did this. And I guess Home Alone 2. Okay, so it would have to be a little pox kid, and the thieves would be blonde. Here's the thing: even when they made this in the early '90s or late '80s, I don't know when this thing came out. The odds of the two thieves being, I don't know what those guys are supposed to be, Italian guys, slim. I'll leave it at that. Everything. I don't know if you ever saw that South Park episode where Stan is just, everything is just crap. Literally, he sees everything as crap. I kind of know everything is crap, but you don't have to take part in it. This was a great movie. It had Leonard Nimoy in it, and the girl who was she in Superman or the Amityville Horror? I forget that. Maybe it'll tell me what the chick's name was. That was a great movie to slowly build suspense. Invisible Man, I think they did remake that actually a few times. I don't think it worked. Lilo and Stitch. Oh, there was a scene in that. I went back and I watched the original where the redheaded girl is being beat up by the little brown girl. It's weird when you go down the rabbit hole and you start to notice this stuff and you start to see it and you're like, oh, this is all real. These people have been doing this for a long time. And the thing is, now I look at Hollywood and I have no interest in anything coming from Hollywood. It's all just cancer. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.